She was just a little girl, cold and alone, sleeping outside a Millionaire's gate in the rain. But when the CEO opened his door and saw her trembling on the steps, he had no idea the truth behind her eyes would lead him to a secret buried in his own past, and a journey that would change everything he thought he knew about family, love, and second chances. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, give this video a like, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. Now let's jump into the story. The October sky burst open just after midnight, turning Beacon Hill's narrow streets into silver rivers. Julian Hartley guided his dark sedan through the gates of his estate, wipers thrashing at full speed. The 47-year-old tech billionaire was used to late-night victories, hostile takeovers, and record stock jumps, but tonight his mind felt raw and restless. The board meeting had been a win on paper, yet the mansion awaiting him felt as hollow as ever. Success, he'd discovered, did not warm cold rooms. Rounding the circular driveway, Julian tapped the brakes. His headlights had caught a shape near the wrought iron entrance, something small, unmoving, half hidden by rain. Instinct said security breach, but curiosity pulled stronger. He stepped out, rain slamming against his tailored coat, water pooling over Italian shoes he normally guarded like treasure. Each step splashed louder than the last until he knelt beside the figure. It was a little girl, maybe 6, soaked to the bone. Tangled dark hair clung to her cheeks. A torn pink jacket offered no shelter from the chill. She held something tight in both fists, a paper shape, soggy and folded many times. Julian's voice, seldom gentle in boardrooms, softened without warning. "Hey there, are you hurt?" The girl blinked huge brown eyes that carried an exhaustion far beyond her years. "Are you Julian Hartley?" she whispered, words almost drowned by the storm. Thunder rolled overhead as he answered, "Yes, I'm Julian." Confusion twisted in his chest. The child's thin fingers uncurled, revealing a water-stained photograph. Julian reached for it with a hand that suddenly trembled. The image showed him younger and smiling, with Emily, the woman who had walked out of his life 5 years earlier. They stood on a beach at dusk, her head on his shoulder, hope in their eyes. Julian's breath caught. "Where'd you get this?" "Heasked from Mommy," the girl said. "We told me you were my dad." Words Julian never expected to hear stung like sleet against skin. He stared at the girl, at the picture, then back at her again. Logic tried to speak, but it drowned beneath a flood of emotion: shock, doubt, an unexpected surge of protectiveness. Lightning cracked, making the girl flinch. Decisions snapped into place. No more questions in the rain. He scooped her up, featherlight in his arms, and hurried toward the mansion. The heavy front door opened to polished marble, glowing chandeliers, and silence that echoed. Gloria, his longtime housekeeper, appeared from the hallway, gray hair pulled into a tidy knot. Her eyes widened at the dripping pair. "Mr. Hartley, who blankets hot tea?" Julian cut in, voice firm but shaken. "It's freezing." Gloria moved at once, motherly instincts outrunning any curiosity. Julian set the girl on a velvet settee near the fireplace, flames roaring to life with a tap of a switch. Steam rose from her jacket as he helped peel it away. Dress clung to thin shoulders. Gloria returned with towels and wrapped the child gently. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Julian asked, kneeling to meet her gaze. "Nora," she whispered, shivering yet calm. "Nora Hartley," Mommy said. The name landed like a stone dropped into deep water. His daughter. How could Emily have hidden this? Julian forced his thoughts to slow. "Nora, where's your mother?" The girl's hands searched for the crumpled photo, now drying by the fire. "She went to get medicine," Nora said, voice tiny. "That was a long time ago. She never came back." Gloria pressed a mug of warm milk into Nora's hands, her own eyes glistening. Leon felt the room tilt. Guilt flooded in like tide water. 5 years ago, he'd let anger push Emily away. Now, a little girl sat here, proof of everything left unsaid. Rain drummed against tall windows while the grandfather clock ticked louder than normal. "Nora," Julian began gently, "did Mommy say where she went for medicine?" The girl shook her head. "She promised she'd be right back. I waited, but the landlord said we had to leave. I walked a long time." I remembered the gate from the picture. Her story was simple. but each word carved a wound inside Julian's chest. Gloria laid a comforting hand on his shoulder, silently reminding him to breathe. "We'll keep her safe," she mouthed. Julian nodded, a plan forming. Beyond the haze of shock, he would call a doctor, buy clothes and toys, contact a private investigator, do whatever it took. But first, he needed truth. Why had Emily disappeared? Why hide a child? And who or what had kept her away for 3 months? Nora's eyelids drooped, exhaustion winning. Julian lifted her carefully, carrying her down the hall to the guest suite that had never known warmth. Fresh sheets, a heated blanket, a stuffed bear retrieved from storage, small comforts in a vast house. Nora clutched the bear, holding it the way she'd held the photograph. "Night, Daddy," she murmured, sleep pulling her under. Breath hitched. The word Daddy sounded fragile, like glass that might shatter if he moved. He stepped out and closed the door softly, back pressed against the frame, heart pounding harder than any boardroom showdown. The mansion felt less empty now, yet filled with endless questions. Somewhere in the storm-dark city, Emily was missing. Their daughter had braved rain and fear to find him. A secret lay waiting to be uncovered. Julian walked to his study. Thunder rumbling overhead, heaped up the drying photograph and traced Emily's face with his thumb. Resolve crystallized. Whatever had happened, he would find her. For Nora, for the years already lost. The rain kept falling, but inside the house a single light burned bright, marking the first step of a journey that would change every life it touched. The sun rose pale and slow over Beacon Hill, drawing long shadows across Julian Hartley's marble foyer. He had slept little. Instead, he paced the corridors, replaying every memory of Emily, the bright laugh, sudden tears, the night she left without a backward glance. Now he understood there had been more beneath that goodbye, an unspoken secret in the shape of a child named Nora. Gloria found him at dawn, still in yesterday's suit. "Sir, she's awake," the housekeeper whispered. Julian hurried to the guest room. Nora sat cross-legged on the bed, studying the stuffed bear he had given her. Sunlight caught her dark curls, and for one aching second, Julian saw Emily at 6 years old, fearless and full of questions. "Good morning, Nora," he said, forcing a smile. "Sleep okay?" "Yes," she answered, voice shy but hopeful. The bear watched all night. Julian knelt beside her. "Must be hungry. How'd a pancake sound?" Her eyes widened. "With syrup?" "With extra syrup." Gloria handled breakfast like a grandmother on a mission, stacking fluffy pancakes on a plate twice the size of the child eating them. Tora devoured 3, then slowed, glancing around the enormous kitchen. "Mommy made pancakes sometimes," she murmured, "but we had to leave fast. She said we couldn't stay too long anywhere." That single line struck Julian harder than any profit loss report. "We'll talk about that soon," he promised, keeping his tone even. "First, there's someone I'd like you to meet." By noon, Marla Brady arrived addrecomed by Gloria's church, background checked twice by Julian's security team. She carried a canvas tote overflowing with picture books and an easy smile that reached her warm brown eyes. "Hello, Nora," she said, crouching to the child's level. "I'm Marla. I hear you love stories." "Yes," Nora whispered, hugging her bear. "Stories about brave girls. Then we'll read lots." Marla glanced at Julian. "She'll be just fine." With Nora occupied in the library building block towers, Julian retreated to his study and dialed Miles Fenwick, the private investigator whose name opened doors nobody else could. Miles answered on the first ring, his voice calm and dusty. "Hartley, what do you need?" Julian stared at the rain-streaked window. "Find Emily Cooper. Last seen 3 months ago. She may be using aliases. And she's the mother of my daughter." Silence followed, then a low whistle. "Send anything you have, photos, old addresses, already forwarded." Julian hesitated. "There may be danger involved. Understood. I'll start now." He ended the call, but questions buzzed like neon. Who or what had frightened Emily enough to keep moving for 5 years? And why hadn't she called him? Pride answered one part. He had pushed too hard, demanded too much, but fear came from somewhere darker. Marla's light laughter. drifted from the library, followed by Nora's giggle. Julian stepped into the doorway and watched, blocks stacked into a castle. Marla wearing a paper crown, Nora dubbing her queen of pancakes. Tenderness wrapped around his chest, equal parts joy and sorrow. This castle of cardboard was sturdier than his empire of glass and steel. After lunch, Marla suggested fresh air. The rain had cleared, leaving the garden glistening. Nora dashed across the lawn, chasing sparrows, while Julian and Marla walked the stone path. "She's bright," Marla remarked. Kanna, cautious, keeps scanning the fence line. Classic hypervigilance. Hyper what? Kids who move a lot notice exits, strangers, strange noises. Her eyes track every shadow. Marla looked gently at Julian. Whatever life was before, she's learned to be ready to run. The words stabbed him with guilt and determination. She won't have to run again. That night, thunderstorms returned. Julian dozed in a chair outside Nora's room, unwilling to leave her alone. At 2:13 a.m., he woke to faint whimpers. Inside, Nora thrashed beneath blankets, face shiny with tears. "Mommy, no! The man will hear us!" she cried, still asleep. Julian gathered her up, whispering, "You're safe. Daddy's here." Her small fists gripped his shirt collar until the nightmare passed. Even after her breathing slowed, Julian kept rocking, eyes fixed on the window where lightning flared. The man haunted her dreams. He needed a name. Morning arrived with Miles's first report. Julian scanned the email, pulse climbing. Emily used the names Amy Crosby in Buffalo, Emma Carter in Dallas, Mia Clark in Chicago. Each time, she lived near community shelters and paid cash. Staff remembered a polite woman who asked about security cameras and emergency exits. 2 months ago, one shelter logged a visitor who asked for her by her real name. Description: tall male, early 40s, gray eyes. He claimed to be family. Yes. After that, Emily left the same night. Julian's hands trembled. Gray eyes that matched his brother Ronan. But why would Ronan search for Emily? Jealousy? Spite? He and Ronan had always competed, but stalking a missing woman was beyond rivalry. He dialed Miles. Dig deeper into the visitor. Find connections to my brother. Miles exhaled thoughtfully. I'll trace phone records and credit cards. If Ronan's involved, I'll know. Julian hung up and faced the empty fireplace. Memories surfaced. Ronan flirting with Emily at corporate parties, the strange tension the night of the final fight. Had he missed warning signs, blinded by arrogance? Marla knocked softly. Nora wants to show you her drawing. Julian forced a smile and followed her to the breakfast nook. Nora held up a crayon picture. 3 stick figures, one tall, one medium, one small, standing under a house. Behind them, drawn in thick black, a 4th figure lurked with glaring eyes. This is me and Mommy and you, Nora explained, pointing. And that's the man with angry eyes. Julian swallowed hard. Did Mommy say his name? Nora shook her head. She just said we had to keep moving. Her voice dropped to a whisper. She said he hated her. Julian hugged her. Oh. Never hurt you again. The promise felt heavy, but unbreakable. That evening, Miles called. Got confirmation? Ronan bought flight tickets to cities where Emily lived, always within days of her arrival. He hired a small security firm to locate a missing friend. Miles paused. Hartley, your brother's footprint is everywhere in her trail. Julian's stomach churned. Keep digging. I need proof. As night settled, Julian stood outside Nora's door once more, listening to the gentle rhythm of her breathing. Beyond the bedroom, the mansion's lights gleamed like distant stars, beautiful, but cold. He realized the true warmth of this house now lay behind that single wooden door. Emily was somewhere out there, alone or worse. Ronan, his own blood, might be the shadow Nora feared. The painful truth pressed in. Julian had spent years conquering markets, yet never saw the danger growing inside his own family. But now, he would face it head on. He turned toward his study, phone in hand, heart set. The hunt for Emily was no longer a search, it was a rescue. And if Ronan stood in the way, Brotherhood would not save him. Sighed. Thunder rumbled again. But Julian Hartley walked into the storm with eyes wide open. The wind whipped trash across the downtown plaza as Julian Hartley crossed it with long, purposeful strides. Inside his head, Miles's latest words echoed like a drumbeat. Your brother's footprint is everywhere. Julian replayed the evidence, flight records, hotel bills, and security invoices, all quietly funded by Ronan. Together they painted an ugly truth. The man smiling in every family photo was the same shadow haunting Emily's flight. Julian entered Hartley Innovations through the private garage, bypassing reception. The 45th floor executive suite still smelled of overpriced cologne and polished mahogany. Ronan sat behind their late father's antique desk, scrolling through emails as if the morning were ordinary. When he looked up, surprise flickered, only for a heartbeat before his practiced grin appeared. Big brother, to what do I owe? Stop performing, Julian cut in, shutting the door with more force than planned. You've been following Emily for years. Why? Ronan leaned back, folding his hands. Careful, Julian. Accusations without proof can ruin a man. Julian tossed a folder onto the desk. Boarding passes, credit card slips, security firm contracts, all bearing Ronan's name. The smile faded. Something colder surfaced, resentment sharpened by time. She never belonged in your world, Ronan said softly. I only wanted to protect her from you. Protect. Fury rose in Julian's chest. She lived in shelters. Our daughter wandered the streets alone.
Oh.
Ronan's gaze flickered. I didn't know about the child. Julian slammed his fist on the desk. You didn't care to know? You hunted them because Emily chose me? The words spilled out, raw and loud. Outside, assistants paused at the sudden noise, but no one dared enter. Ronan stood, jaw tight. Father praised you for every company milestone. I was the spare.
And Emily looked at you like you hung the moon, his voice cracked, hatred shining through. I thought if she saw who you really were, cold, obsessed, she'd leave.
Then I could be the one to save her. The admission stole Julian's breath. He saw it now. Ronan lurking at charity galas, offering friendly smiles, while jealousy festered. Shh. You didn't save her, Julian whispered. You ruined her life. Before Ronan could answer, Julian's phone buzzed.
Miles.
Miles's name flashed. Julian turned away to answer, voice low. Talk. Found her, Miles said, breathless. St. Bridget's Hospital, South Side. Admitted 4 months ago as Jane Doe after a hit and run. Fits Emily's description: amnesia, lingering injuries. The attending doctor says she started sketching a man and little girl yesterday. Julian's legs went weak.
Out.
He pressed a hand. To the wall? She's alive. Miles continued. Hospital records show an anonymous donor covering her bills. The donor account traces back to Ronan. Julian's blood turned to ice. He's been paying to keep her hidden. Ronan's voice drifted from behind. Brother, you look pale. Bad news? The mock concern sliced deeper than any insult. Shh. Julian ended the call. Emily's at St. Bridget's. She remembers enough to draw Nora and me. For the first time, fear cracked Ronan's facade. She can't see you. It will set her recovery back. The lie wobbled in midair. Julian stepped closer. Or expose everything you've done. Suddenly, Ronan lunged toward a side cabinet. Julian, acting on instinct, grabbed his wrist and yanked him back. A small syringe clattered to the carpet, the label read, Midazolam. Julian stared in horror. Drugging her too. Ronan's eyes were wild now. She needed rest. She kept trying to leave. Security guards finally burst in, alerted by the struggle. Julian pointed to the syringe. Call the police. And don't let him leave this floor. Ronan's desperate shouts followed Julian down the hallway, but the elevator. Doors swallowed them. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Marla and Nora colored at the kitchen island. Nora chose dark crayons, outlining a man with scary eyes standing behind a smaller figure. Marla asked gently, Who is he? Nora whispered, the one Mommy feared. He looks like Daddy, but not nice. Marla's stomach nodded. She texted. Julian a photo of the drawing without explanation. Minutes later, her phone rang. Julian's voice shook. "Pack a bag for Nora. Meet me at the front in 20. We're going to the hospital." Marla didn't ask why. She saw the urgency in the uneven lines of Nora's drawing. Traffic crawled, but Julian's thoughts raced faster. He replayed Emily's laughter on their first road trip, the softness in her eyes whenever she spoke of future children. How close he had come to losing those memories forever. Guilt rode beside hope. Guilt for pushing her away. Hope for a second chance. At St. Bridget's gray brick building, Julian gripped Nora's hand while Marla walked beside them. The lobby smelled of antiseptic and burnt coffee. Nurse guided them to the psychiatric wing, where sunlit corridors tried to mask heavy stories. Outside room 312. Dr. Lin waited, clipboard in hand. "She's calmer today," the doctor said. "She remembers fragments, rain, a chase, a little girl named Nora. Seeing familiar faces could anchor her memory fully, but it may also overwhelm her." Julian knelt, meeting his daughter's eyes. "Nora, are you ready to see Mommy?" The girl nodded, tears trembling on her lashes, yet courage shining brighter. Julian rose, heart hammering. Dr. Lin opened the door. Inside, Emily sat by the window, a sketchbook on her knees. Rays of afternoon. Light outlined her auburn hair, thinner now, but still luminous. She looked up, confused, then startled. Her pencil slipped to the floor. Julian couldn't speak. Emily's gaze darted from him to Nora, to the doorway and back. Her lips parted soundless. Recognition battled disbelief. Nora took one small step forward and whispered, "Mommy." Emily's hand flew to her mouth as a sob tore free. She stumbled from the chair. Julian hurried forward, catching her before she fell. Their eyes locked, tears of fear, regret, and love pouring through a single moment. Nora wrapped her arms around both of them, little fingers squeezing tight. Tears blurred Julian's vision. But he felt the warmth of Emily's arms at last, heard Nora's muffled giggle of relief, and knew the shadow behind every smile had finally been dragged into the light.